Welcome to Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready, we're about to live in your head rent-free. Hello, Otterites. This is episode 138.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis, sitting in the captain's chair for some reason. I can't figure out why. My turn
because we voted while you were out of the room.
Oh, there you go. That's how this works. That's right.
Kind of like how I decided to not use a contraction while you two do. It's just something we decided on.
That's right. And we just kind of work with it and go for it. And that's totally okay because we are laid back here at Snakes and Otters. We try not to get too intense about too much, but except when it's truly required.
Especially when we're mega comfortable here in Studio F.
This is true.
Oh my goodness, I'm kicked back on the couch. I had my shoes off.
Oh yeah.
I wondered what that smell was.
We're sipping on some bourbon and we're rocking and rolling.
Well, that's nice. We are Ayatollahs of rock and rollers, boys. I don't think I've ever used that online, but I love that line. We're just sitting here. We're in the Baxter Building again, back here, Studio F. All is in good shape.
In Johnny's game room.
Yeah.
Down the hall from the negative zone.
That's right.
So if you hear a flush, worry.
yeah, that's an Nihilus. He's down on the can.
That's right. We don't want any of that. But no, code of honor. I was going to say no script, but we never have a script for these things. Most time. Rarely do we come with saying, oh man, I've got to do this one, We just kind of say, all right, let's see what we got, boys. And that's kind of what we're going to do.
And then we let Robert tie it all together.
Which has, so far he's got a, perfect batting average on that. We have never, only he could say if that ever happens where it's a failure. But
no, I think if I were to fail, it would be pretty obvious.
Well yeah. Okay, we'll see. We would be kind.
Now, I have had episodes where it has been a bit of a reach at times, but I've managed to do it, so that's all that matters.
At least on paper, it always worked, right?
As we say at Snakes and Otters, we are tying together the sinews of the human experience, and my man Robert's excellent at it.
Very much so. The hammer, that's why we called him that, though. So
yes, you don't really tie with a hammer, but that's okay. We can mix our metaphors.
We're mixing
that's
metaphors.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Jack Aubrey. Okay, yeah. We're just going to do something whatever this time. And I've got something. So,
well, I would hope so.
Well, I hope so because we're recording now. You better have something. That's right. But there are times that, I don't have a list anymore, guys. I don't know if I told you that. I went off my list a long time ago, and it's like, okay, what do I want to talk about? Find something. And you can, easily go through a Google search, great quotations. You'd be amazed what you'd find. There's tons of stuff out there. Sometimes
find a book at
the most inspiring things ever said. Yeah, there's great stuff out there, and because this is one of our most downloaded episodes, our quotes of honor are always very popular, and we tell folks, hey, we don't have to say everything about all that was quotations. You can search that for yourself. Although when we've all spoken,
what else is there
to say? And I'm going to kind of load that. That's kind of going to be a load up, front load, shall we say, about my quotation. I'm going to quote from one of the most often quoted modern folks, and some people go, oh, you're going to quote him? And others will say, well, of course you should quote him. It's Stephen Covey.
Okay, yeah. Oh, we're going to do
I was going to say, are we going to...
I have no problem with that.
I didn't think you did, and you're going to say,
yeah.
There's a reason he's often quoted, though, because usually, say what you want to about him, and I'm sure, Martin, you will. A lot of the stuff, it makes sense. It is exactly on target, and that's one of these things through here. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned it much online, but I'm a big proponent of, student of, teacher of emotional intelligence. It's huge.
Yes,
it absolutely is huge. If we could instill that in people, most of our problems in this world would go away. I truly believe a lack of emotional intelligence is what brings about a lot of the relational problems that we have, at least professionally.
You're absolutely right, and it's difficult. It can be a struggle depending on your intellectual and emotional makeup to do this. So it's something that you have to be deliberate about in your life.
That's correct, and that's one of the gifts that we have, and so many people don't do that. And it's kind of similar what this quotation is going to talk about. Now, it could be a million things. Covey is one of the most quoted guys around here. But this one here spoke to me. This is one that I really like to hear, and it's true. And I'm giving Robert the opportunity, I'm giving Martin the opportunity to vent on something here, because I'm sure you will. I sense this.
All right, well,
I feel this in the force. Let me lay this out ahead.
this is a long run for a short slide.
Okay.
Well, that's generally how Francis's quotes go.
He does a big build-up.
Let's have it. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply.
Yeah. No, I can't make an argument. Guilty as every other human is.
And therein lies the problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fixer. I'm a problem solver.
It's part and parcel of being a guy.
Yeah,
and
especially a guy that's a techie if you're telling me something, that means you want me to fix it. If you don't want me to fix it, why the hell are you telling me?
Yes, and
which is at the crux of practically every husband-wife disagreement there ever was.
Yes,
that's correct.
Yes.
And it's very. I mean, everybody that they get that.
She just needs to tell. She doesn't want to fix. I don't want to hear it unless I need,
to fix it.
That's an action item.
I was watching something recently, and it was a husband and wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't remember. And she was about to tell him all of her troubles, and he had to stop and say, "All right, is this you want to just tell me your troubles, or you want me to fix your troubles conversation?"
Yes.
Which is...
Because you don't know. Because they don't bother to tell you that up front.
Yeah. And ladies, if you understand that about your guys, you'll get better responses.
Yes.
Just tell your guy up front, I don't need you to fix any of this. I just got to tell you.
And most guys, once they understand that, they'll think properly.
Well, we'll shut up.
Well, that's part of it. But see, that goes back to Covey's quote. Is, we're not trying to reply. And it's not just in those moments that we talk about here. This happens in almost every conversation that you have, especially ones that have higher emotion levels. That's why emotional intelligence is so important here. Because your self-regulation is what we're talking about here. You're not trying to hear what the other person is saying. You are trying to voice your reply. And especially when you come up with something rather clever or apropos or groundbreaking or something that moves the conversation in a different direction, you want to grab a hold of that. And so often what you do, and I'm guilty of it as any of the rest of us are, is you interrupt. And therein lies the problem. That's rude.
I'm absolutely the worst at that.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. I'm pretty awful.
I must be the best because I just let you guys go on there.
Well, that's right, because I'm noticing how Robert is putting us both to shame by saying nothing. All you have to do is just, when we say that, you say nothing. And
as it was once said, it is better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and prove them right.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't been one of our quotes, but you never know yet. It's definitely one of the very best of them. Yeah. But that's right, we don't listen in this, and a lot of it is the instant gratification, I think, that we receive from our mobile devices. It has taught us we need to know now. We need to be heard.
Yeah.
We need to say this. We need to interject. We interject ourselves constantly, and it does our relationships no favors. And it can be as important as our marital relationships, which is where it's often seen, but it's in any relationship, your professional relationship. Your reputation as a professional person, or as a minister, or as anybody that you might, any public persona, semi-public that you might have, stands or falls in many respects on your ability to converse.
Oh yeah.
And even beyond conversing, again, I'm not a person who's good at any of this, but just to understand a little bit about people and just to be able to say, I don't have a fix for this, but I know this is killing you.
Well, that is to be able to.
We've recently had to let someone go from my work.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know the complete circumstances. I'm assuming it's some kind of performance-related issue.
Yeah.
And knowing the boss like I do, I know it was tearing her up inside to have to do such a thing, because she's not that kind of person to.
Well,
hey, you're not pulling your weight. Get out.
Yeah,
so I just one time when I saw her here recently, hey, I know this is
tearing you up.
It's tearing you up. I know it's awful.
Yeah, the thing about this quote that is so true is that, because you're talking about how you can't converse if you don't listen, Francis. The problem with, as we go about things, we are listening so we can react, reply. You can't really converse with somebody unless you have understood what they said.
Yeah.
And if you're so busy trying to figure out what you're going to say and you can't wait till they take a breath so you can jump in, you have not heard a thing they said, you've not understood. You may think you have, and maybe you have.
You've
because
heard it
maybe they
first.
said it to you a million times already.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes the case. But you never know. If you don't wait for them to finish, you'll never know.
Well, yeah, because you may get 2% of it right, but they may go in a completely different direction.
Right. And it sometimes is better to keep your mouth shut and let them ponder whether or not you are the fool. Because you can't learn when you're too busy speaking.
That's right.
The old adage, God gave us 2 ears to hear and 1 mouth to speak. Use them proportionally.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's a lot of truth in that as well.
Try to listen more and talk less.
Yep.
Well, but people feel validated by that, and not to put it from the self perspective, but we will. That gives you the ability to converse at a far deeper level and have a far more positive attitude about your. They will have a positive attitude and image of you because of that, and that's a good thing. You'll be the hero of the story if you can shut your mouth and listen, even if, again, you can't fix it. Well, you're a good listener. I've heard that many times, only because when I shut up, everybody is. Let them do the talking. Mm-hmm. And it's a skill, but it's not difficult to do. It's really not. You just deliberately try and not speak. And because you'd be amazed how much better people feel when they can just lay it all out there. And especially if it's an emotional issue, let them speak. And it's hard at times, especially if they give you nuggets that, I can fix that. Oh, I can fix that.
Yeah.
You're wrong about that.
Well, it's woe betide us to say that. But we often do. When you say absolutes are really awful on that, because we often speak, you always do this, you never do that. Well, of course, that's not true. It cannot be true. And, we kind of like to turn that around and make that a gotcha, because like we're scoring points in a game. We're realizing we both lose when that happens, because then the temperature raises and absolutely nothing gets accomplished, and you quickly find yourself in your opposite corners. And this can happen in any which way.
Yeah.
We've got to learn to speak less and listen more. We really do.
Yeah.
And of course, it's easily taken advantage of, because we all know folks who have to monopolize every conversation that they're in.
Oh yes.
There's nothing you can do about that other than just find the ejector seat button quickly and try not to associate with them much. I wonder if they realize that. I submit they don't. Otherwise, if they did, they'd realize why people won't. And maybe they're lonesome. I think there's some of that. They want to be heard so badly that they're going to, and maybe they're not being heard otherwise. I'm not a psychologist. I can't give you a lot of that. But those are the worst. Those are the worst. When you have that conversation, we all know those people. Oh my gosh, I don't have time to talk to that person now, right? Because it's going to be 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And there's a lady that always has to come up and talk to us, myself and the pastor after the 5:30 mass.
Yep.
She's about this high. And I don't mean to where my head is, I mean like this high.
4 foot nothing.
Yeah. And
that's being generous.
She's older. She's always telling us, she's got a great mind for numbers. But she's one of those that you got to listen to, and you can't talk over her because she won't let you. She just keeps going anyways.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing either. For somebody who tries to interrupt you, if you keep going, you don't let them. Eventually they either get the idea or you realize, this is not somebody I ever want to talk to again. Yeah. But that's not what I'm saying with her. But she's one of those people that you when you get to a conversation, it's not just going to be a quick, nice to see you, have a good week.
That's right. That's kind of what it is. She just wants somebody to talk to.
She does. She likes to let people know how she's doing.
That's right. And that's these are not malicious. There are some that are doing it as a power thing. There are a few people that I will dominate you, and this is how this will work. That's rare though. Most people do it because there's an inner need inside them.
Yeah. In addition to the one who has to dominate, because we both know those. We all know those. There's also the guy or the girl who likes to be the center
Oh yes,
because they got that salesman persona.
there's a tinge of narcissism here.
Tinge of narcissism. Always got to be telling the funny stories. You never let somebody else get in a word edgewise because you're too busy telling your own stories.
Yeah, it's a need to dominate.
Yeah, it's a different way though. I mean,
Correct.
For one, it's from an argumentative point of view sometimes.
Right.
From the other, it's just hey, aren't I great with all my stories?
A topper. If you read
Yes.
Dilbert, that's
Yes,
exactly
it's a
what that
topper,
is.
yes.
Dilbert is the one that he has the guy called Topper that no matter what you say, he has to one up you.
Oh yeah.
And you've seen him because he has his arms held at right angles to the side because that's what he is, and he's the guy that. Some of those are some of the very best of the Dilbert cartoons when Topper appears, but they're all wonderful. We could do a show on Dilbert. Actually, love that.
Yeah.
Because he nails it. He nails it every single time. That's it.
Ready for me?
Hand it off. Baton is yours. What do you got?
Well, I'm sure to Robert's shock.
It's PJ quote.
No,
Oh,
another guess. You get one more guess.
Chuck.
no, I don't know. I can think of a few.
Nietzsche.
Nietzsche. Oh,
Nietzsche. We've gone back to Nietzsche again. This is
I'm
cool.
back in the Nietzsche well, and I'm not sure why I picked this one. I just in prepping for the episode, I'm like, yeah, that's I need to do that one. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you.
Oh, that's a great quote.
Great
That's
quote.
a very famous
Very
quote.
famous
Yes.
quote. That's right. Bono quotes that all the time when he's talking about some sort of I think it was he was in Paris in 15, and he was talking about the San Bernardino massacre. He said we don't have to fight the monster. We don't have to become the monster. And he was cautioning people, as he often does, do not let this transform you into the enemy because it very much can.
Yeah.
He's speaking against that reactionaryism that we often have when we're faced with these sort of things, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
So many times, that's what we do.
Yes. How do you fight evil without becoming evil?
Yeah.
Well, and that's Ulysses S. Grant, though. That's kind of the way we do things.
Well, it's
Total
not-
war.
Yeah, it's not just how do you fight evil without becoming evil. It also speaks to how do you not despair in
Yes.
the face of such
Yes.
monstrous evil that
Yeah,
the world
that's
can provide.
very important because the modern world certainly can fill you with despair.
Right, because we get to see all of it. It
Yeah.
used to be, even 40 or 50 years ago, you only got to see a little bit of the despair that goes on in the world. Whether it's on the night
You
news,
can read about it.
newspapers,
Yeah,
whatever.
you can kind of choose what.
And it was always
Yeah, but that's
what had
distant.
already happened.
That's
Yeah.
sufficiently distant in either time or space or just revelation.
Right. Well, and so that's what I'm saying. You only got to see a little bit of it, and you only personally got to see up close and live an even smaller amount. But now, every bit of the despair on the entire planet is on our phone, on our televisions, everywhere on the internet. It's especially Twitter might be the biggest example of the despair
Yeah.
that is in the world.
Well, it's so easy to plug into it and be fed nothing else.
Right.
I mean, you can get despair and evil practically intravenously.
Because it's
through our
bite-sized,
technology.
it's pithy, and there's no opportunity.
There's so many sources, so many.
Or none. It's opinion in so many ways.
Yeah.
Often passed off as fact, and therein lies the problem because it's who's got the best quip, and that's what you're searching for is the best zinger, and so many times, and it's kind of increased our capacity for that. I'm not sure that's a good thing. It's taken it beyond bite size. It's we're grains of salt now is what we're taking on our tongues.
Well, that's so that we can fit more of the angst and despair into our lives.
That's right.
Because it's really, the old saying about newspapers, if it bleeds, it leads.
Absolutely.
And that's very true in everything, because it's more sensational to talk about the bad thing that happened than it is to talk about the good things.
Well, because it gets clicks.
Well, I mean, just even personal discussions. Not even talking about clicks. It's very much a a reality that's more likely to be interesting.
Well, you can't write a novel without conflict.
Exactly, because conflict is what makes stories interesting.
That's right.
It's really what makes life interesting.
Yeah.
Because without conflict, what do you have to overcome? When you stare into the abyss, it shouldn't be to soak up the despair. It should be to figure out, how can I beat the little effer?
How do you bridge the chasm?
Yeah. Know thy enemy is another way to put that. That's why you stare into the abyss, is how to conquer it. Not to become it or be subsumed by it.
Because ultimately we still want that heroic story. We want good.
Right. We need that heroic story.
We have to, because life is too grim at times. We try to avoid that, but ultimately it always breaks through in some fashion.
Yeah, and it just, maybe he didn't, in the end, really have a complete framework for how to live life, but I just continue to find Nietzsche interesting because he wrote in this way, this aphorism style, these little things, and he was, for the most part, a very keen observer of the human condition.
Very much
Yes.
so. He was articulate at it. Very
Yes.
articulate at it. And he saw things differently than so many others, as most good philosophers do. The ones that we remember, they always had something that was new, a way of putting something out there. Truth really doesn't matter on that. I mean, it's all just theory. Some have been accepted as popular and common, and others less so. And some change over time. I mean, Thomas Hobbes was revolutionary at the time he was written, and now it's kind of like, well, that's all about monarchy. Why the hell do we care, But that was exploded long ago, and yet there's still wisdom there. Fantastic.
That's it? That was awful quick.
it.
All right, so shall we have a
break?
bourbon break?
Yes.
Oh, I need to refill. Boy, I'm being a lush today. I've actually gone through 2 glasses. Granted, this is not in like 5 minutes, so I'm not, stumbling my way over here.
No,
to refill my glass.
we'll have none of that. Actually, bottle stands by you, Mr. Howard. I'll take a little bit of whatever you've got.
All right.
As Jack Aubrey would say, one of our favorite.
Say it
movies.
when.
When is
8:30.
fun. That's right. There you go. No. You're actually getting ahead of us. Wyatt Earp is next episode, but that's we'll talk more about that then.
Well, I think saying 8:30 is stolen from Airplane. But
Oh, is it really? Okay. Well, hey, which is a genius of stupid comedy. And
Oh,
there
yes,
was a-
absolutely.
it's kind of like the top of the heap.
And
on that.
it's in my mind. Again, my post recently was about Bob's Burgers that I found, and I think I finally stumbled on what's appealing about that show. It's got just that hint of that absurdist element that really comes from
I
like
love
Airplane.
the thing you texted to me, the sous vide in the Banshees burger.
Yes, every episode has at least one pun burger. So that's very imaginative, very creative, and I love it. A recent episode I watched, and this is from several seasons ago because I'm going back to old seasons, but Bob and one of the other townspeople were stealing these squares from a quilt. They were all making a quilt of the history of the town.
Oh.
And the one townsperson, she wanted to steal them all because her square got rejected to go in. So she was stealing them all to put them together to make sure that her square of the quilt went in. And as we tend to do, they were smushing down all the words. So they smushed quilt thief. And they smushed it to queef.
Okay.
So this is a regular feature that the kids would say these things, and Bob, the dad, has to say, "Don't say queef." So Dad became a queef. Don't say queef.
Don't say this. So, anyways, I have gone to the Basil Hayden,
Which that's what I've got as well.
and I'm doing this neat, which I generally do not do.
I find that's just the best way to experience it.
It's personal preference.
You understand?
And it's good. The one nice thing about doing it neat is that which is also one of the reasons why I like using the soapstones or the steel cubes or the steel balls, is the you don't dilute the flavor.
Agreed.
You don't dilute. That's why I prefer only 1 cube of ice at best when I do it on the rocks. So you get a really good full mouth of that flavor. It really just and this, as smooth as it is, it's got a good, not quite explosion of flavor or burn or anything like that because it's very mild. But this Basil Hayden is just I just can't say enough good things about it.
Nice and mellow and wonderful.
That's right. Yes.
Oaky and just a lot of good stuff. I'll have some next time. I just tossed down the last of the last of my Angel's Envy.
Oh well, yes.
Not the last of Mrs. Francis's Angel's Envy.
Oh no, the winds that would blow. No, we do not need.
I
that.
think we have probably retired the Angel's Envy for the day.
We'll stop there.
No, we've still got plenty of the Basil Hayden yet. So,
Yes.
I thought he was going to say plenty of the Angel's Envy. I was like, well, that's your funeral.
That's right. No. If we had to do it,
That Angel's Envy is it's so awesome and mellow. Again, that flavor stays on the tongue and just warm all the way down. It's really a great
It's a
Kentucky hug.
Deep in the gut.
well, and that's one of the reasons that when we used it that first time, I mean, we just blew it out. We drank the hell out of it, and that's not.
I think that was the first time you guys had spent a whole lot of time with Angel's Envy. I'd had it before.
It may have been
I
that.
think
That's
it's my
right, and
first
it was a recent thing, and I was
It's
just
good. It's good
kind
stuff.
of just we drank a whole lot of it, and I just I can't believe we were the ones who actually did it all. But nevertheless, that's kind of how the story ended up coming out. So here we are.
Anyways,
She's forgiven you all long ago.
Okay.
Yes, is that you're drinking Basil Hayden?
I am drinking
as well.
Basil Hayden. That's right. You just poured it.
Yeah, I just
That's
poured.
right.
Yes,
That's right.
Well, but you didn't say what you were drinking.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, no, I'm drinking Basil Hayden. That's correct.
Yes. So, as I like to do, let's review. Francis, your quote was.
Oh no, you're not supposed to ask me that so quickly because I don't have it in front of me.
All right,
here.
Martin, your quote was.
Nietzsche, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you.
Yes, very good.
Don't let horrible things change you.
Basically, yeah.
Right. And mine was about listening.
For the worse.
For the worse.
Yeah. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. That they listen with the intent to reply. That was Stephen Covey, which is about how we don't listen well at all.
Right. So, my quote is by Benjamin Disraeli.
Oh, I love Benjamin Disraeli. Yes, the
Good,
man.
good.
So, I'm going to go a little bit afield here, maybe a little work to tie this together, but I'm
I'm
going
gonna
to do
say
it.
it's a stretch, but let's see what you can do.
So, when I hear your quotes, given my role in this to tie these together, in a way it's kind of a cheat because I can take whatever meaning I want out of your quotes and
Yeah.
fit them to something else, but I think I do a good job. So, this listening, just for listening's sake, not just to reply, taking the you out of the equation is what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very important thing. It's a very important thing for the human condition, human life, entirely. Because if we don't listen to one another, we are essentially alone. All
Right, and that must not be. Of course, we
Right,
are.
because we are communal creatures. Now, your quote, which essentially we boil down to, don't let the awful things that happen change you for the worse. Or as he put it, if you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back at you. Which is kind of like saying you end up looking in the mirror. And I think the only way you do that, I think how that happens, is when you do it alone.
Ooh, okay.
When you don't have support, you don't have
Right.
a support system.
Exactly. You
Well,
don't have a
you
support
turn
system.
in on yourself.
You don't have somebody working with you.
Somebody holding your britches.
Oh, that's good.
Okay,
Yes.
that
Somebody holding
works.
your britches, yes.
Sure.
That's great. Holding your britches from behind as you're leaning over the abyss.
As you're looking
That's
into
right.
the abyss, somebody's got to be there to pull you back.
That's right. So, but you don't get somebody without somebody listening to you.
Yeah, if you're a awful listener in the extreme, you have no one because nobody wants to be around you.
Exactly. And the people that we had in mind that we will not name because that would be rude,
Yeah.
nobody likes to be around them very long. And everyone that we can think of.
If you've been married 9 times,
Hell, maybe it's you.
That's right.
Exactly. So this listening to listen is key to not looking into the abyss alone. Right?
Okay.
I think that's an important thing. Now, get to Ben's quote here. That's Ben Disraeli.
Benjamin Disraeli.
That's right. We're on diminutive name basis here. Justice is truth in action. So,
Very
so
brevity is the soul of wit.
yeah, I was going to say these short quotes you can take just about anywhere.
Yeah.
But in the context of what we've already been talking about, justice is truth in action. You know, we're very big on the concepts of justice and truth and acting.
Very much so. Those are
In
three
action.
common themes that we go back to over and over again.
Yes, so this is really, this could almost be one of our mottos for Snakes and Otters.
I'm kind of liking it, yeah.
So when I think about this in the context of the others, justice is truth in action.
It's very Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
kinda
very
is.
Measure of a Man.
One of the highest forms of truth and justice, in my opinion, is how we go about our relationships when we do it well, when we are doing it at the level of caritas, which is wanting the best for one another. It's not just love as in, I love you. It's wanting the best for each other. To me, I think that's one of the highest forms of truth and justice. And when we are doing, I think the inaction part is kind of what you guys are talking about. This is one way to look at it.
Okay.
Yes.
So, truth, how we relate to one another, how we are friends to one another.
Yeah.
That is listening, truly listening to one another. Not just so we can get in our own story, like some people we know, but so that we can understand either the joys or the sorrows that
right.
one is going
It's
through.
both, yeah.
Because we need to be able to commiserate. That's part and parcel of being a friend.
Uh-huh.
And when we're talking about, as I said, not looking into the abyss alone, having somebody to hold on to your britches, that also is this truth, justice is truth in action. Mm-hmm. That is both the just and the truth thing to do, is to be there for the person who is standing on the abyss. Somebody who is potentially going to fall into it. Somebody who could spiral into harming themselves, however you want to see that be. Or somebody who becomes a monster. A monster in the sense of a Hitler, a Mao.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. Or just the guy who goes around shooting things up. Doesn't matter. That's a monster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or whatever form that may take. And justice demands that we do whatever we can to prevent that.
Yeah.
Justice demands that we are, if to use one of my favorite phrases, going to respect the inherent dignity of the human person, that we do listen, that we do hold on to your britches. And justice is not just a concept. It is an action.
It must be.
Yeah.
It
right.
has to be.
Understanding that people who fight monsters, whether those are people in law enforcement or people in military,
Or even your own internal monsters.
there's PTSD is a real thing.
Very
It
much
is.
so, yes.
And
We react
understanding
to
that,
trauma.
yeah,
Yes.
and I still feel very strongly that awful things that happen they don't happen out of the blue.
Right.
If someone acts with that kind of malice to, drag the black man out of the car and beat the daylights out of him, is it inexcusable? Yes. But can we search for an understanding of why that
Of
happened?
the why.
Look,
Not
Yes.
right.
Not to let them off the hook of it. You're all
Right.
responsible for your behavior.
Because if we know the why, maybe we can correct it before the next guy
You're
does
looking
it.
Exactly.
It's a study of root causes.
Yes, that's
and that's
justice
always
in
the
action.
That's right. That's
We've got to
always a
prevent the next
legitimate part of any tragedy like this. Take your school shooting. What's the first thing we do? We post-mortem the background of the perpetrator and figure out what the heck happened. And a lot of times
Well,
we
the first
find
thing we do is usually blame the gun, but that's beside the point.
well, yeah, it's and there's a human need, the baser level of us, for blame. That's not usually justice. That's vengeance. That's
Right.
a perversion. Whereas justice requires, how do we prevent this from happening? How do we take this person out of society so they cannot do this again? And how do we send a signal, and unfortunately justice is often symbolic, of this person is making reparations for their actions. I'm not sure that that's ever possible, truly.
Generally, if you take the life of anyone else, the reparations are impossible.
That's correct.
Even if they put you to death, which I no longer support that, the reparation is not sufficient.
That's right.
Because you cannot bring back what
that
has been
only
lost.
satisfies vengeance. That only
Right.
satisfies it. So
And it still leaves you empty because
Yeah.
vengeance can never fill the hole that you are grieving over.
that's correct.
And that hole, honestly, I think when you take the vengeance, especially if it becomes more personal, that hole that you are trying to fill becomes the abyss you stare into.
Exactly.
Oh, very
That
much
is
so.
exactly
Yes,
right.
that's exactly
and that's
right.
that's exactly what he's talking about. Revenge first. You dig 2 graves.
Right.
And that's what he's talking about. Is the abyss.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So-
and unfortunately, that abyss is not of your making. It comes from outside in some fashion. And for the victims and the families of victims and things like that, there's not a great answer for
Well,
this.
But
choosing
you-
to wallow in the
Yeah.
the revenge and then not being satisfied by it,
Yeah.
that is of your own making.
Yeah.
Well, that is correct. That's
you,
right.
You choose whether to jump into the abyss or turn around and walk
You
away.
can't fall into it, you're saying.
You choose whether to jump in or turn around and walk away.
That's right, because ultimately you cannot choose whether the abyss appears before you.
Right.
What you do with that, you cannot be sucked in by it unless you allow it.
Right. I think that it's not always I'm going to literally jump, like jumping off a diving board. It is sometimes starting a walk down a very, very narrow incline.
Sometimes you're sitting on the edge first.
Or, well, like I said, sometimes the decline from the top down to the edge where you actually do fall off is a very shallow
Yeah.
The
so
abyss-
it's a long road. Is what I'm saying. Is it's a long road sometimes from the healthy examination to I'm at the edge of the abyss and screw it, I'm gone.
Well, there's a gravitational pull from the abyss. The closer that you get to it, the harder it is
Yeah.
to pull yourself out.
But you can walk back.
That's right.
up
You,
the
absolutely.
ledge.
You have
can-
the capacity to
Yes.
achieve escape velocity. You can do that. Whether you choose
It may be
to.
that, especially on the slower ones, that it is nearly impossible for you to overcome the momentum you have built up. Sure, but you still made all of those decisions prior to that point.
And there are some people who simply need help with that. We
Yeah.
understand that. Some
Now-
traumas are so great that it requires professional assistance to
Yeah.
move beyond them.
And I do want to say that sometimes, especially the PTSD reactions,
Yes.
when we are not doing that justice is truth in action thing by walking with you, by listening,
Yeah.
by holding your britches,
Intervening.
intervening, you can say that we do bear some culpability in that.
That's right.
But sometimes the where the PTSD comes into play, or where the trauma is so great, you are so overwhelmed with it that it is not a conscious decision because of that.
Sure. But there are markers with that. We've come to the point.
There
we can
are. I'm not
understand
saying
that.
I'm not saying there's ever a time when you have zero culpability. I'm just saying there are times when the road there, because of the lack of intervention on others, there was almost no way to get off that road.
Well, yeah, and because we can see the train wreck coming sometimes.
Yeah, not always.
Not always,
Not
but,
always,
but
but yeah.
sometimes we have. Those who seek only blame believe that that's always and so often
Right.
the case. But
Yeah.
we should recognize that some problems have no solution, and but we've come to the point, I think, where society has gotten. We are our brother's keeper. To go back to Genesis.
To a certain degree.
To a certain
yes.
degree, that's right. When we as a society have made the conscious decision, when there are those who suffer from whatever trauma it is, there are programs available for them at no cost to them eventually.
And
usually.
there is a societal response
That's correct.
that either leads to something better or something worse. We're in a moment now. There is a tremendous permissiveness. We're
Yes.
starting to see these stories of dozens of people hopping out of cars smashing the windows of a store and looting the shelves clean. And people going, well, you know, and
What are you gonna
this
do?
and that, and this and that, and maybe they're entitled. And it's like, wait a minute.
That's
Wait
right.
a minute. This is not helping them. Even if you acknowledge, okay, at some level, sure, there's an injustice behind this.
But
That's
you looting
not
a 75
helping.
inch television from the local Target is not.
That's not a response to racism.
No.
I'm looting.
It's not a response to anything.
I'm stealing because I can.
Yeah.
And it's just that is not addressing anything.
The wound still bleeds.
That's
Well,
that's
and that
that's
must
just
be
you're
stopped.
just being permissive and you're transferring the hurt to others. Yeah, it's a big corporation. Okay, they looted a Macy's. But real people work in those stores. And a lot of stores and restaurants and things are franchised. Those are not big corporations. That's a regular person who lives in your community.
Right.
who
He's got to
now-
make payroll this week.
He's got to make payroll. His insurance premiums are going to skyrocket, or hers. And that is probably going to lead to, I can't reopen the business. Yes, to a degree, I got made whole by my insurance because of the inventory that was stolen. But I've got no credit now. If I want to continue my premiums are, you know.
Cost prohibitive.
And people talk about food deserts in urban neighborhoods and retail deserts where there's nowhere to go to buy. Well, if you're going to let people every so often go in and clean out the shelves, who's going to put up with that?
That's right.
Or
Who's gonna-
if you're going to say to Walmart, you know, we don't like your kind of business, so we don't want you to come down here to the West End where there are no grocery stores, where there are no places to shop, where there are no jobs. And we're going to tell you, we don't like you, so we don't want you to help these people. I am not a huge fan of Walmart, but I thought that was a travesty of
It is
justice.
It's shooting yourself in the foot, or cutting off your nose to spite your face. Whatever,
Very much so.
Whatever cliche you want to say, it really is. It really, really is. Yes, okay. When they come in, yeah, it tends to smush mom and pop stores. But hey, if there aren't any mom and pop stores already,
Right. If you're
What's
complaining
the
there's no
difference?
good place to get cheap groceries and you won't let the Walmart open up, who's then at fault?
Yeah. How are the people served by that? They ultimately
Exactly.
continue to suffer.
How many people, now granted, Walmart only, employs, like 1.5 checkers, for like the entire year because everything is self-checkout. But how many people work at a Walmart that those jobs were now, never appear? How many people would have had jobs building that Walmart? How many people would have, all of the things that go
and
in
again,
there.
I understand the criticism. Oh, well, those aren't good jobs, or they're look. Walmart's not meant to be a career. McDonald's is not meant to be a career. It's meant to be a job where you learn how to work, where you learn how to be supervised by someone else, and then you move on to something else. You're not supposed to stay at Walmart your whole life. You're supposed to move on.
I don't fault anybody who does. So let's
Right.
not.
Yeah, let's
Right.
let's be fair.
But
yeah.
right, I mean, lots of people work at grocery stores forever. There's nothing wrong with that.
But if you're a cashier the entire time, then that's.
You know,
And if that's all you want or need,
yeah,
fine.
that's fine. But the idea that, oh well, these are horrible jobs and they should be making $35 an hour. No.
You can certainly make an argument that they should be paid more because
Yes.
if Walmart employees are taught by Walmart, and this is actually a thing, that so look, we know we don't pay you enough, so here's how you get on the government teat to make up the difference.
Yeah. Or we're going to schedule for 38 hours, but your benefits don't kick in until 40.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I get it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a dodge. And
That's a
and you can
dodge,
complain.
yes.
And certainly, I grew up with a union wage from a grocery store, so I'm not going to disparage that at all.
Right. Well, as much as
but
we might think unions do things that we don't like, they certainly fought a lot of battles that most of the rest of us
benefited from.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Even if we are now white collar workers.
yeah. I'm a white collar worker who benefited from having a blue collar life, and I think we all did.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Yes,
And-
my father was a union man.
And yeah, I mean, Dad was a shop steward and all the whole bit.
Well, even a lot of the benefits we enjoy ourselves as white collar workers, are the result of the union getting them for the blue collar guys
Yeah,
first.
they're rooted in those labor
Yeah.
struggles. So can't disparage that.
Yeah.
And
And-
at the same time, it is this idea of someone who writes for a newspaper for a living or is on TV as a talking head talking about well, Walmart is holding people down and it's not a career. Well, yeah, I know it's not a career. It's not generally supposed to be a career. If you want to use it to move on to something else, that's the idea.
Yeah. I mean, you can make the argument whether that's right or wrong, but that's currently the way things are structured. And yeah, there's all kinds of things we could argue about it, but
Yeah.
the point is, though, you took, in that case, you're letting people continue to stare into the abyss because you would not allow a solution to the problems that you complain about.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't perfect.
Because it wasn't perfect, because it wasn't the right kind of place.
Well, that gets into politics, which,
Yes.
as we always know, is dehumanizing.
Yes.
It is divisive by its nature. It
I'm
only
willing to-
thrives in
Because somebody has to win in politics.
well,
Yes.
and someone else has to
Has to
lose.
Yeah, that may be the more important piece.
That's right.
Yeah,
You know,
somebody
you,
has
you
to
must
lose.
you must destroy the enemy,
Yeah.
and that's all that matters.
I'm willing to bet a lot of those people in the West End would kill to have a Walmart down there.
Yeah, because many of them are economically depressed already, and they can conveniently get the goods they need at the cheapest prices available with great selection that's constantly being refilled.
Yeah.
It's a sadness.
I mean, to me, that is the miracle of the modern, whatever you call it, supermarket or superstore or whatever is. Look, guys, throughout history, you haven't been able to walk into a 100,000 square foot facility and go, hey, there's a lot of crap in here.
yeah, anything you need, you can get there.
You can get. I mean,
And
this
that's-
was not a regular feature of life until just a few years ago.
That's right.
Yeah, relatively speaking, yeah.
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 The enormous selection of everyday things that you just don't understand. This was not available, effective disinfectants or cleaners.
Much
70,
less
80
canned
years
goods that'll
Yeah.
last forever.
Yeah.
For,
This is not
months
a
or
feature
years.
of life.
That's right.
Until,
For a community in that area that is almost wholly subsistent on public transportation.
that was the other thing, yeah.
Yeah.
You're making them go much farther
Yeah.
on public transportation to get the things they need. Yeah, again, to kind of tie that back together, that is a great example of listening to reply as opposed to, because all you want to do is say, I don't like this, we don't want that here.
We don't want that here.
As opposed to saying, hey, we need some place where we can get groceries cheap. Because, that's the sad fact of the little mom and pop shops, is they can't afford to buy in bulk. Therefore, they don't get the best
They'll
prices.
never match the prices. That's
So,
right.
is the problem that Walmart wants to come in, or is it really the problem that you're arguing that these guys should be able to have access to those lower prices? That's an entirely different argument. And no, I don't want to see them go out of business, but on the other hand, sometimes the good of the many has to outweigh the good of the few.
Well, we always gravitate towards the lowest price. There's just, what else would you do?
Right.
I mean, if somebody sells gas for $4 a gallon, and 2 blocks away somebody's selling it for $3 a gallon, guess what? The guy at $4 a gallon is going under.
Right.
He just is. No matter whatever virtuous things that person is, we're not stupid.
Right. The only way to correct that is for the government to say this is the only price you can charge for these items.
Thank you, Richard M. Nixon, because that's where we're talking about wage and price controls.
Right.
Which were a huge failure.
Which were a huge failure. All of this, so much modern failures.
Even failed in the Roman Empire.
Yes.
And we still did it.
Yeah.
Well, as I've often said, the Roman Empire is a roadmap to where we are headed.
That's right. Because as empires go,
This is the big one.
this is the big one.
So,
That's
so Emperor Domitian was Richard Nixon.
right. I can do that.
Yeah, we might go there.
Real
We might go
harsh.
there.
All right.
But the thing I was going to say to wrap this up, almost every modern failure, whether it be at the macro level or the micro level, is that breakdown of this basic relationship of being able to listen and support one another.
That's right.
Being able to hear and hold on to the britches. If I can't hold on to your britches, it's not just because you're fat and I can't get my hand around them. It's because, it's got to be more than that. You got to be this interconnectedness that we all have has broken down.
Stand beside instead of standing behind.
Yeah.
Because if I've got my arm around your shoulder, that's better than holding onto your britches.
That's right.
Because I can distract you from the abyss.
Exactly.
Look at the eagle as he flies.
That's
Right. Maybe it's best you have two friends. One hold on to your britches and the other one to stand next to you and they take turns.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I always, I find myself being much happier being an encourager.
Yeah.
You know, you are. I mean, envy makes you miserable.
It does.
And when, I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks. You know, I'm thrilled by Francis's tales of his novel writing, and I love to watch him when he flies. He's the eagle.
No. Well,
And
thank you.
I'm so excited for him. I just can't wait.
Yeah.
Because I have so much confidence that this is going to be real.
Yeah.
That we're going to see this novel on the bookshelves.
Well, we hope so. That's what. Well, you guys get to be the first readers of it because you know you've got a month or so for Christmas, New Year's, something like that. To go through.
I will have it done by the end of this month for sure.
Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping that by the middle of next week I will have finished my own first draft and I can
Yeah.
set that aside for a while and let it percolate.
That's right. You got to do that. Having done that,
Oh, yeah.
First draft is crap. I mean, every author will tell you that.
The first draft is Scottish.
That's right.
Or it's not Scottish,
It's
I mean.
un-Scottish.
It's not,
That's
it's
right.
not Scottish.
Full of crap.
It's crap.
And you look back, and that's where a lot of folks, even though only a small percentage of would-be writers ever make the first draft happen, but so many fall off after that because they realize this is not good.
Well, they also...
Or worse, they think it is good and try to get it published, and then that gets pretty quickly...
Or I think what often happens as well is they look at it and they think, oh my God, I've got so much more work to do.
That's right.
And it was a struggle to get here.
Daunting.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is, but you know, it's creative. Editing is just as much a creative force as actual composition, and it's marvelous. It is
Oh, yeah.
miraculous.
Awesome. You've done great, sir.
All right, shall
So-
we wrap this?
Francis, what's next? That's 2 episodes in a row. I've stolen your line.
Well, that's all
That's
right.
good. Run with it.
Looks
Franny,
good.
what's next?
Looks good, boys. Let's caulk it. Okay, but we're gonna a little bit of a slight accent there, but you know we're going west next time, folks. It's a heroes episode. One of my heroes, and indeed one of the most endemic heroes of the American West. If you asked for who is the most well-known Western / cowboy / lawman, his name is going to be coming up, and that's Wyatt Earp. A fascinating man, a complex man. He's complicated, as Travis Slattery would say, but yet he is forever in our memories and understanding for a lot of great reasons that we'll talk about next episode. Don't miss it.
Hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes published every Friday at noon Eastern.
Spread the word. We're on all the major podcast platforms. And leave us a comment or review because that helps others find us.
We're on Instagram, Twitter, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com.
I'm Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis. Join us next week, same snake time, same otter channel.